The road bends like a ribbon in the wind. Fog clings to the trees like breath on glass. Somewhere, beneath a sky powdered in ash and silver, a raven lifts into morning. The forest exhales. Pines lean in as if listening. There's no need to rush here. Oregon holds its secrets in stillness. Mountains rise not as monuments, but as memories, soft, weather-worn, older than the names carved on maps. Rivers speak in riddles, lakes in reflection. The coastline bruises into cliffs and breathes salt into the marrow of the air. Moss hangs like time itself, suspended in green silence. You don't find Oregon. It finds you gently, completely. Somewhere in this hush, the soul begins to stir. You are the traveler now. Welcome to Oregon. This is a land sculpted by fire and cooled by rain, where each season drapes its own veil across the trees. In spring, trilliums bloom like hidden stars. In autumn, the forests catch fire without burning, just color, alive and dying all at once. Once, this land was walked not by wanderers, but by keepers, the Kalapuya, the Chinook, the Takelma, tribes whose languages rose like smoke through cedar boughs. Few remember the stories passed from grandmother to grandson about the fish who taught patience or the mountains who once walked. But the wind remembers. The rivers still sing the syllables. In 1843, settlers came by wagon, chasing something they called promise. They etched fences where trees once stood like guardians. They plowed through ancient camas fields without knowing the taste of its sacred root. And yet, the land, resilient and stubborn, held fast. Even now, she whispers her truths to those who stop long enough to listen. Oregon doesn't shout. She waits for a footfall softened by humility, for a traveler who carries questions, not answers. As you journey through her landscapes, lush valleys, basalt cliffs, rain-drenched trails, remember to tread gently. Locals here often greet with a quiet nod more than a wave. Roads meander like thoughts. The weather changes its mind. Don't hurry. Don't plan too tightly. Oregon teaches in slow time. Listen for the cry of the osprey spiraling over a lake. Watch how low clouds catch on the shoulders of Douglas firs. Taste the sharp clarity of mountain air in your lungs and the scent of wet bark after a storm. Let the silence stretch, then settle. If you speak to someone tending a roadside farm stand or brewing coffee in a coastal shack, ask what they love most about this place. You'll hear answers like the light in October, or the hush after snow, or simply everything. The land will not hand you all its meanings at once. It gives in pieces. Mist on your coat, a fern curling in shadow, the hush before dusk. Accept each like a gift. And as you cross this threshold into Oregon's breath and body, do not seek to conquer, only to notice, only to remember. After all, every journey worth taking begins not with a step, but with a stillness. Welcome, traveler. The path is open. In the valley shadowed by the Siskiyou Mountains, Ashland stirs like a quiet thought at dawn. Soft light filters through oak branches. A creek chatters softly over polished stone. The town wakes not with noise, but with nuance. Windows glowing amber. The scent of roasted beans drifting from cafes. Footsteps softened by moss-lined sidewalks. Ashland holds a kind of rhythm, half heartbeat, half sonnet. Shakespeare's ghost lingers here, not in costume, but in cadence. The Oregon Shakespeare Festival has, since 1935, woven verse into the town's bones. Open-air stages under starlight, soliloquies carried on mountain winds, and audiences hushed by more than performance, by presence. Yet beyond the theater, another drama unfolds. In Lithia Park, once the sacred hunting ground of the Shasta people, spring water rich in minerals still bubbles to the surface. Locals sip it, some for its iron tang, others for tradition. The land once fed tribes and now feeds souls seeking something gentler. You'll notice a kindness here, a patience. Doors held open, conversations slowed. There's time in Ashland, and people know how to use it. Come in autumn, when the trees ignite in gold and rust, or in spring, when the wildflowers sneak across the hills like whispers. Pack layers. This place dances between seasons in a day. Walk Lithia's shaded paths. Read in the garden near the Japanese pond. Lose a few hours beneath the boughs of madrona. And when evening falls, find yourself under soft stage lights or stars, wherever the story calls. Whether you hear Prospero or crickets, the line between play and prayer grows thin. Ashland does not ask you to be a spectator. It invites you to listen to the creek, the script, the sky, to live inside the lines of something quietly beautiful. Rising like a sentinel from the Siskiyou horizon, Pilot Rock stands alone, a tooth of ancient lava worn by wind and memory. From a distance, it looks misplaced, almost defiant, jutting upward from a sea of fir and pine. But up close, it feels like a memory too old for words. The Takelma people once called it Tantia Satsanifta, stone standing up. To them, it was a spirit, not a landmark. Later, it guided pioneers on the Applegate Trail, a beacon for those crossing the unknown. Even now, it draws wanderers upward, not for conquest, but for clarity. The hike is steady, the path scattered with scree and switchbacks. Silence here is full-bodied, broken only by the breath of wind or the cry of a hawk carving circles overhead. As you climb, the forest falls away, replaced by sky and rock and the scent of warm earth. The final scramble tests both hands and humility. But then the summit, from the top, Oregon unfolds beneath you like a revelation. Ridges layer like pages in a story, clouds casting slow shadows over valleys, Mount Shasta gleaming ghost white in the distance. Up here, time stopped performing. It simply is. Few tourists make the full climb. Most take their pictures from afar. But if your boots carry you all the way, sit a while. Let your pulse match the stillness. This isn't just elevation, it's perspective. If you go, start early. Bring water. Watch for loose rock. And if clouds roll in, listen. The wind around Pilot Rock often speaks in whispers only solitude can hear. For the traveler who lingers, this place offers more than view. It offers presence, the kind that roots into your bones and says, you were here, you were small, and that somehow was enough. Morning in Eugene rises like steam from the Willamette, soft, slow, and full of breath. Trees line the banks like watchful elders, and bicycles hum along wet pavement, their riders bundled against the mist. Here, everything seems to move at a human pace. A town stitched together by trail and thought. Home to the University of Oregon, Eugene thrums with youth and curiosity. But beneath its academic pulse lies a deeper rhythm, of moss-covered poetry, of tie-dye vendors folding history into fabric, of riverside markets where radishes still carry the scent of the soil. There's a story few know. How Ken Kesey, author One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, once called this place home. He returned after his bus-riding, mind-bending journeys with the merry pranksters, not to escape the world, but to plant himself in it. You can still find his bronze likeness downtown, reading to children from an open book. A reminder, Even those who wander wide sometimes root deep. Eugene listens. It doesn't perform. Walk the path along the Willamette and notice how strangers smile without agenda. Sit in the Whitaker neighborhood and sip coffee beneath a muraled wall. Go to Saturday market where artisans fold cedar, leather, and glass into offerings. No two stalls alike. No voices rushed. Springtime brings cherry blossoms that drift like confetti across campus lawns. Autumn sets the town ablaze with ochre and wine-colored leaves. Winters are gentle, more damp than cruel. And in summer, the sun lingers long, stretching golden light across the fields. Here, you don't need a schedule, just curiosity. If you visit Skinner Butte, climb to the top and look down. The city unfolds like a story half told, neither loud nor shy, but quietly persistent. A place where movement isn't measured in distance, but in depth. Eugene asks nothing of you but presence. And in return, it offers an unspoken kind of welcome, the kind that settles in the chest like warmth after rain. You may not find fireworks here, but you will find light and time and something like peace. The Willamette moves like memory, slow, winding deep. It does not rush to meet the sea. It wanders, carving its path through forest and city alike, wrapping Oregon in a ribbon of water and time. Mist clings to its surface each morning like a forgotten dream. Herons perch in stillness. Alder trees lean close, listening. To the Kalapuya people, this river was lifeblood, a giver of salmon, a thread connecting village to village. Its name, pronounced Willamette, has survived missteps and mispronunciations, but still flows with quiet pride to the heart of the state. In 1949, something remarkable happened here. A river once declared biologically dead began to come back to life. Activists, scientists, and farmers joined hands, not loudly but steadily, to heal what industry had choked. Decades later, Chinook salmon returned. Osprey nested again. The water, once poisoned, began to remember how to be clear. Walk its banks in the early morning. The air smells of wet stone and willow bark. Follow the Ruth Bascom riverbank path, where joggers pass in quiet rhythm, and elders sit watching the current as if reading old letters. Every bend reveals a small cathedral. Light glinting through cottonwood leaves, dragonflies stitching silence above the flow. In summer, locals drift down the Willamette in inner tubes, their laughter light as leaves. In winter, the river darkens, reflective, brooding, but it never stops moving, never breaks character, always returning. If you paddle its surface, know that beneath you lies a layered history of trade canoes, sunken logs, wedding vows whispered in drift boats, and ashes scattered with love. The river keeps them all. Should you visit, go with reverence. This is not just water. This is story. This is struggle. This is return. And if you sit long enough beside it, watching leaves ride the current like thoughts, you may find yourself remembering something you didn't know you forgot. Something like grace. Something like flow. Where the coastline buckles and breathes, where waves crash not with chaos but with purpose, there Thor's well waits, a gaping maw in the black basalt. It swallows the Pacific whole. Tide after tide, the sea pours itself into this ancient sinkhole, vanishing into the earth as if into myth. Foam rises, water surges. Then, in an impossible breath, it all disappears. And the silence that follows feels holy. Locals call it the drain pipe of the Pacific. But the name Thor clings tighter, echoing old Norse gods, thunder, and forgotten fury. Yet there's no anger here, only awe. Geologists say it was once a sea cave, carved by centuries of waves, until its roof collapsed, leaving the stone throat. But no science fully prepares you for the sight. Waves rising in fury, then collapsing into themselves. A perpetual inhale, a breath too big for lungs. Visitors lean close, cameras raised, hearts tight. But be warned, the sea here is not tame. Rogue waves sweep in sudden and strong. To stand too near is to forget that the earth, when wild, makes no promises. Stay on marked paths. Watch from behind the safe rails. Let wonder replace the need to touch. Come a high tide or during a storm when the drama peaks. Mist clings to eyelashes. Salt kisses the air. The roar becomes a sermon. Nature preaching in wind and wave. This is not a place to linger long. It humbles, and then it releases you. And yet, something remains. You carry it with you, the sound of water vanishing into stone, the way the horizon wavers behind sea spray, the feeling that some doors in the world open only downward. Thor's well doesn't offer answers. It reminds you of the beauty in not knowing, of depths that cannot be seen, only felt. The trail begins in hush, stone steps softened by moss, cedar needles padding the path. Ferns unfurl beside trickling streams, and canyon walls rise, cradling you in green stillness. The deeper you walk, the more the world falls away. Then you hear it, a low, steady thunder drawing you forward. And suddenly, Wahclella, it pours from the cliffs like a blessing, like breath, a two-tiered veil of white water, framed by basalt, tumbling into a turquoise pool. Mist lifts and dances in sunlight, forming fleeting rainbows that vanish before they can be held. Long ago, the falls were part of fishing grounds sacred to the Chinook people. Today, you can still feel that sacredness, not in ownership, but in awe. Keep your voice low. Step carefully. This is not a place for noise. It's a place for reverence, for listening, and for remembering how small and how briefly luminous we are. Emptyhood rises like a dream above a horizon, white crowned, solemn, eternal. Around its slope stretches a vast cathedral of pine and hemlock, where light slants through branches like stained glass, and the air carries the cold sweetness of snowmelt. This is Emptyhood National Forest, over 1 million acres of silence, trail, and time. The mountain has many names. To the Multnomah people, it was Y-East, a towering presence in their creation stories, locked in ancient battle with nearby mountains. Today, skiers know its slopes, hikers know its ridges, and still the mountain keeps something hidden, something unspoken. The forest is not loud in its welcome. It offers moments, elk tracks by a quiet creek, wind threading through alpine meadows, the crunch of old snow beneath boot. Here, you earn beauty through stillness, not speed. At Timberline Lodge, stone, and would tell stories of the 1930s, built by hand during the Great Depression. You can still feel the weight of calloused palms in every beam. From its terrace, the view stretches forever until the clouds roll in like thoughts. If you visit, tread lightly. Stay on trail. Let solitude be your guide. In late summer, huckleberries the undergrowth and black bears, shy and seldom seen, wander the deeper woods. In winter, snow muffles the world until even your breath feels reverent. The forest teaches slowness. That beauty is not a flash, but a patience that all lives not only in summits, but in the shadowed roots of firs. And if you find yourself alone on a trail as golden light filters through the trees, know this: you are exactly where you should be, here in the hush beneath the mountain. Dawn at Trillium Lake is a painting in motion. Mist drapes the water like silk. The surface holds its breath, mirroring empty hood with such precision feels as if the mountain, too, is dreaming. You stand at the edge and forget where reflection ends and reality begins. This lake is not ancient, but it feels that way. Formed by a dam built in the 1960s, it now lies like a gem cradled by forest, drawing campers, photographers, and seekers of stillness alike. Here, the loudest sounds are paddle strokes and loon calls echoing from the far shore. Even laughter arrives softened, filtered by pine. In summer, families drift across the lake in kayaks. Some fish the calm waters for trout, their lines vanishing beneath mirrored sky. At night, the stars crowd overhead like old stories told without words. Long before the campground, the land belonged to tribes who honored the mountain and its reflections. In still water, they saw the sky's heart. In every breeze across the lake's face, a message, quiet, invisible, and necessary. If you arrive early. By midday, the lake fills with footprints and echoes. But in the morning, it belongs to the birds, the light, and the hush. Photographers know this. They come before the sun crests the ridge, waiting for that one perfect moment when color, cloud, and calm converge. But you don't need a camera. You only need to look. And when you do, when the mountain sits perfectly upon the water's skin and the air holds still just long enough, you'll feel it. The quiet joining of earth and sky, and yourself somewhere in between. The forest narrows and the sound of water grows sharper, less a murmur, more a pulse. Then the trees part, and there it is, Takelma Gorge, a chasm carved by the Rogue River, its basalt walls twisted and dark, worn by centuries of fierce, relentless flow. The gorge is short, but it cuts deep, named for the Takelma people, whose word means those along the river. This place holds echoes. The tribe lived with the Rogue, not against it. Their canoes sliced these waters. Their stories followed its curves. Forced from their homeland in the 1850s, what remains is this name, this river, this place. The water here churns, glints, roars. On bright days, sun shafts pierce the trees and catch in spray like scattered glass. In winter, frost silvers the rock edges, and the river steams with its own quiet breath. There are no visitor centers, no fences, just a narrow trail, a few roots, and the steady roar of the water as it rushes through stone. It's a place for presence, not spectacle. If you go, take care. Rocks are slick and footing can be unsure. But pause before the gorge, breathe deep, and let the river speak. Some say you can hear voices in the flow, whispers beneath the white water. Maybe it's just the wind. Maybe it's memory. Takelma Gorge doesn't ask you to understand it, only to witness, to feel the pull of something ancient, deep, and restless carving its way forward, always forward, through everything in its path. The sea speaks louder in Bandon. Waves crash like slow thunder against monoliths of stone. Sea stacks that rise from the beach like forgotten gods. Fog drapes the coast, curls around driftwood, and lingers in the folds of your coat. Here, the wind doesn't whisper. It remembers. Bandon is small, but it's not quiet. The Pacific makes sure of that. This town, settled in the late 1800s, was nearly erased in 1936 when wildfire devoured its heart. Flames swept down the coast with terrifying speed, fed by the flammable gorse bush imported from Ireland. But Bandon rose again, from ash and ruin, rebuilt by stubborn hands and salt-hardened spirit. Today, the harbor bustles with fishermen bringing in crab pots and quiet pride. Art galleries bloom in weathered buildings. Locals move with that coastal rhythm, slow, deliberate, always glancing at the sky. Walk the beach near Face Rock, and you'll hear an old Coquille legend, the tale of a young woman turned to stone by an ocean spirit. Her profile still gazes skyward at low tide. Parents tell children not to turn their backs on the sea, not out of fear, but respect. Time bends here. One moment you're sipping coffee in a seaside cafe. The next you're ankle deep in tide pools watching sea stars cling to rock like fallen constellations. The air tastes of salt, seaweed, and something older. Visit in fall, when storm watching becomes a sacred ritual. The ocean puts on its fiercest face, and locals gather behind windows with cocoa and silence, just to witness it rage. If you come to Bandon, don't seek a show. Come for the slow undoing, the way the sea rearranges thought, memory, and breath. Come for the wind that tells stories in a language you almost understand. The Rogue River splits through Grants Pass like a heartbeat, fast, clear, and untamed. Rafters chase its curves in summer, laughter skipping over rapids. But in early morning, when mist hangs low and the river quiets, the town feels like a story paused mid-sentence. Grants Pass is a place where things hold on. The past, the pines, the pace of life. It began as a stagecoach stop during the Oregon Gold Rush, and though the gold is long gone, the grit remains. Locals wear time like denim, faded but strong. Downtown is a mural of old signage, family-run shops, and the kind of storefronts where bells still jingle when you walk in. There's pride here, painted on brick and tucked into flower baskets that line the streets. It's the climate. The signs declare, an old slogan now worn with affection more than fact. But beneath its Americana charm lies deeper roots. Long before wagons, the Takelma fished these waters and sang to the river. Their presence remains in stone and silence, and in stories nearly forgotten. One tale says a rogue river chose its name not for its fury, but for its resistance, how it cut its own path, unbending to the land. Maybe that spirit still flows through the people here. In summer, the Josephine County Fair brings funnel cake and rodeo cheers. In winter, fog rolls down from the hills and wraps the town in soft gray. Year-round, the river never stops moving, and neither do the hearts tied to it. If you visit, try a float down Hellgate Canyon. Watch the cliffs rise on either side like gatekeepers. Or simply sit riverside with sandwich from a local deli and let the water carry your thoughts downstream. Grants Pass won't dazzle you all at once. It's a place that offers itself slowly, like a hand extended, not demanding, just waiting. And sometimes that's more than enough. Newport wakes with the gulls. Fishing boats murmur in the harbor, ropes creak, and sea lions bark from sun-licked docks. The Pacific stirs beyond the jetties, salt threading the air like memory. At the Oregon Coast Aquarium, creatures of deep and dark glide past glass, a mirror to the ocean just beyond. But Newport's soul lives in its working waterfront, where crab traps clang and weather hands sort the sea's yield. Down by Yaquina Bay, the lighthouse keeps its steady gaze, casting quiet light on restless waters. You don't rush Newport. You walk its windy piers. You taste chowder by the sea. You let the gray skies settle something inside you. And you realize some towns don't perform. They just endure. Perched on a bluff where land hesitates before the sea, Yaquina Bay Lighthouse stands not tall, but steady, whitewashed, with framed against an ever-changing sky. It is Oregon's oldest surviving lighthouse, first lit in 1871, then dark for more than a century. For years, it stood abandoned. Empty rooms, salt-stained windows, and a spiral staircase leading to nowhere. Locals told stories of a girl who vanished within its walls. A ghost, some said. Others just nodded. Some places collect echoes. Restored now, it watches again. Not for ships, but for souls wandering the edge. Step inside and you'll hear the floorboard speak. Light pours through lace-curtained windows, catching dust motes midair. The lantern room is modest, but the view is not. Yaquina Bay below. Its waters calm or furious, depending on the wind's mood. If you come, speak softly. Let your footsteps fall slow. Lighthouses were built not to shine constantly, but to pulse, to guide, to warn, to wait. This one does the same still, though its beam is memory now, not flame. On stormy evenings, stand near the bluff and feel the wind press against your ribs like a breath you forgot you needed. Some lights don't flash. They linger, quiet, unmoving, certain. It begins with thunder, not the kind that cracks the sky, but one that rises from earth, low, steady, relentless. You follow the sound through fir and moss until the trail bends, and there, bursting from the forest throat, is Sahalie. White water roars over ancient lava rock, crashing into a mist that kisses your skin. Everything is alive here, the spray, the moss, the air itself. Sahalie means heaven in Chinook jargon, and standing before this fall, the name feels earned. Formed by volcanic flow thousands of years ago, Sahalie Falls channels the Mackenzie River in a single breathless plunge. The water doesn't fall. It hurls itself, fiercely, joyfully, downward, as if in a rush to return to something sacred below. In the 1800s, settlers tried to tame these lands, to map what could never be measured, but the river held its course. It still does, strong, sure, untouched in spirit. The trail that circles from Sahalie to Koosah Falls is short, but it moves like poetry. Each bend a new line, each step another stanza of water and wood. Ferns lean close. Trees lean closer. Your thoughts slow to the rhythm of the river's breath. If you come in winter, the falls roar louder. Snow clings to branches. Ice laces the rocks. And still, the water refuses to stop. Let it teach you that beauty doesn't always trickle. Sometimes it arrives like a flood, unapologetic, unstoppable. Stand there. Let the mist find your face. Say nothing. Let the falls speak for you. The Oregon coast is a poem written in stone and salt. Jagged cliffs rise like ancient sentinels, worn rough by wind and wave. Sea stacks pierce the mist, ghosts of long-eroded headlands, standing watch over restless tides. The air is thick with brine and cedar, and the horizon holds a shifting palette of gray and blue. Here, storms are not interruptions, but declarations. Waves crash with thunderous applause, carving caves and coves that hide secrets and stories. The beaches stretch wild and endless, scattered with driftwood, polished stones, and the occasional shell, fragments of distant lives. In winter, the coastline grows raw and honest, stripping away illusion. In summer, it softens into a place of quiet reflection, where the sun slides low, painting water and sky with gold. Walk here slowly. Let the wind erase your footprints. Listen, not just to the ocean's voice, but to the silence it leaves behind. And know that some edges are meant to be wild. Cannon Beach holds a quiet kind of grandeur, where the ocean meets sky in endless conversation, and the land rises abruptly from sand to jagged stone. The iconic Haystack Rock stands like a sentinel, towering, weathered, and cloaked in seabirds. Puffins nest there each spring, returning like old friends, their calls threading through the salty air. The tide pools at its base are miniature worlds, anemones waving like dancers, starfish gripping stones, crabs scuttling beneath shells. Locals say the rock was once a giant turned to stone, a protector of the coast. Stories drift like driftwood here, half myth, half memory. The town itself feels like a pause. Art galleries glow warmly against cool gray skies. Cafes hum with quiet laughter, and every window seems to frame a sea glass sky. Cannon Beach draws visitors not just for its beauty, but for the way it invites stillness. Walk the beach barefoot as waves curl and retreat. Watch the sun dip slowly behind the Pacific, lighting clouds like flames. In winter, storms roll with a fury that stirs something deep in the chest, a reminder of the sea's untamable spirit. If you visit, come early to avoid crowds. Explore tide pools before they vanish with the tide. And when you leave, carry with you the memory of wind, salt, and stone, the elements that shape not just this place, but something inside us all. The Columbia River Gorge is a wound in the earth, a vast canyon where sky and stone meet in a dialogue as old as time itself. For miles, the river cuts through basalt cliffs, carved by ancient glaciers and restless waters that have shaped the land and the lives entwined with it. Mist often lingers here, threading through towering Douglas firs and western red cedars, softening the rugged edges of the gorge. The air is thick with the scent of pine, damp earth, and the ever-present river, carrying both history and hope. Long before settlers arrived, the gorge was a sacred passage for the Multnomah and other tribes, a place of spirit and sustenance. They revered the falls and winds, the salmon runs that sustained them, and the stories woven into every rock face. The area is dotted with petroglyphs, silent witnesses to those who walked here long ago. Today, the gorge is both playground and sanctuary. Hikers climb to hidden waterfalls, windsurfers dance across the river's surface, and travelers pause to drink in vistas that seem too vast for words. One rarely told story is of the Bridge of the Gods, a natural land bridge once said to span the river, connecting the two sides before it collapsed. Its legend lives on, symbolizing connection, loss, and the enduring power of the land. If you explore, approach with quiet curiosity. Trails wind steeply, and weather shifts swiftly here. Carry layers, water, and patience. Watch for the flicker of a bald eagle overhead or the delicate bloom of wildflowers clinging to rocky ledges. At sunset, the gorge glows, a fire of reds and golds that bleed into the river's mirror. Stand there long enough, and the weight of time seems to lift, leaving only the pulse of wind, water, and stone. In the Columbia River Gorge, the earth speaks in silence, and all who listen become a part of its story. Koosah Falls tumbles with quiet insistence, a liquid thread weaving through moss-covered basalt. The water plunges 65 feet, spilling from the Mackenzie River into a deep emerald pool below. Spray dances on sunbeams, casting fleeting rainbows that vanish before you can hold them. This waterfall, less visited than its nearby cousin Sahalie, feels like a secret whispered among old-growth firs. The path leading here is gentle, rooted in shadows and light, offering moments to breathe, to listen, and to witness. The name Koosah comes from Chinook jargon, meaning the sound of water rushing, and it fits perfectly. The roar here is steady, not overwhelming, like the pulse of the forest itself. Legend says the river spirits guard these falls, protecting the salmon runs that sustain life downstream. Each year, the fish make their perilous journey, leaping through currents and obstacles, an ancient dance of endurance and renewal. Visitors come quietly, mindful of the fragile balance between awe and intrusion. Moss softens footsteps, ferns lean close, birds flit in hidden canopies. If you stay long enough, you might catch a glimpse of the mist's slow drift, the sunlight filtering through leaves, or the hush that follows the rush. Koosah Falls is not a roar demanding attention. It is a breath, a moment held between earth and sky, and a reminder that sometimes the loudest stories are told in whispers. Brookings wakes to the sea's breath, a salty whisper threading through docks and cedar-shaded streets. The port hums quietly, a living pulse where fishing boats bob in rhythm with tides. Nets unfurl, and the Pacific's voice never ceases. This town on Oregon's southern coast feels both small and expansive, where fishermen still tell stories over chipped coffee cups, and fog drapes the harbor in mystery before morning light. The port of Brookings is more than a harbor. It's the town's lifeblood, a gathering place for hard work and quiet resilience. Once a haven for native Taloa people, whose respect for the sea shaped generations, the port later became a hub during the fishing booms of the early 20th century. The docks bear the weight of history in peeling paint, rusted cleats, and salt-worn ropes. Walk the boardwalk at dawn, and you might see fishermen hauling crab pots, their faces lined like weathered maps. Watch seabirds will overhead, eyeing the water for scraps. The nearby Chetco River, with its emerald flow, feeds into the port, linking forest to ocean in a timeless exchange. Visit during salmon season to witness the dance of nets and tides, or come in winter, when storms roll in heavy and wild, turning the harbor into a theater of raw nature. If you come here, respect the sea and its rhythms. Listen to the stories whispered in the spray. And remember, this is a place forged by water, wind, and people who know both intimately. Brookings is not loud, but it speaks deeply. And if you listen, it may teach you how to carry both strength and quiet grace. Perched high on Crown Point, Vista House stands like a lighthouse of stone, a sentinel watching over Columbia River Gorge. Built in 1918, it was meant to be a resting place for travelers, an observatory, a sanctuary, a quiet pause amid the vastness. Step inside and sunlight floods the octagonal room through stained glass windows. Walls whisper with the echo of footsteps, stories of weary visitors who came seeking solace and view alike. The air smells faintly of cedar and thyme. From the terrace, the Columbia River snakes through the gorge, a gleaming ribbon framed by cliff stick with fir and cedar. Mist drifts in soft wisps, folding the valley into layers of blue and green. Hawks wheel overhead, silent and sure. Vista House was once called the crown jewel of Oregon Scenic Highway, a place where the journey itself became as important as the destination. Its architect designed it to blend with the landscape, to feel less like a building and more like a breath held between earth and sky. In winter, snow dusts the roof, softening its lines. In summer, wildflowers bloom nearby, nodding to the rhythm of the wind. If you visit, take your time. Let the silence settle. Sit on a bench, watch the river pulse below, and remember that travel is not just about movement, but about stillness. Vista House waits quietly, a reminder that sometimes the most profound journeys happen when we simply stop and breathe. Emigrant Lake lies like a mirror tucked into the foothills, its surface smooth, reflecting sky and pine like a secret kept between earth and water. The name speaks of passage, of those who once journeyed westward in search of new beginnings, crossing rugged lands and uncertain futures. Today, the lake offers something quieter, respite. In summer, families gather along its shores, children's laughter mingling with the hum of dragonflies, and kayakers slipping through glassy water. The scent of pine and warm earth mingles with the soft lap of waves against sand. The lake is man-made, created in the 1920s by damming Emigrant Creek, but its spirit feels ancient. The hills around it hold stories of native tribes, settlers, and travelers, layers folded one upon another like sediment. Early mornings here are especially sacred. Mist rises off the water, dissolving into golden light. The world seems to pause between breath and heartbeat. For the traveler, Emigrant Lake invites a slow unraveling, a moment to sit still, to watch clouds drift, to let time soften. If you visit, bring a book or nothing at all. Walk the shore barefoot. Let cool water wash over your feet. Notice how the sun sketches shadows through the trees. In this place, beginnings are both remembered and renewed, and the lake's quiet pulse becomes your own. Latourell Falls drops straight from a moss-draped cliff, a silken ribbon of water framed by towering evergreens and rich basalt rock. Unlike its neighboring waterfalls in Columbia Gorge, Latourell is bold and solitary, visible from the roadside, yet inviting enough to draw you closer into the woods where the air is cool and fragrant with cedar. This waterfall, plunging over 240 feet, is a living poem of geology and time. The basalt columns here stand like ancient sentinels, formed from lava flows long cooled but still whispering the story of fire and water locked in an eternal embrace. The name Latourell honors a pioneer family, but the land beneath the falls has been sacred ground for generations of native peoples who revered water as a source of life and renewal. The trail to the base is short but steep, each step taking you deeper into a cathedral of green. Ferns arch over mossy stones. Bird song threads the silence. The roar of water grows louder, enveloping you in its cool embrace. Many come to stand beneath the cascade, feeling the mist like a baptism, a reminder of nature's relentless grace. If you visit, walk slowly and breathe deeply. Let the falls wash away noise and hurry. Here, water speaks not only of movement, but of constancy. And in that endless fall, you may find a quiet echo of your own resilience. Sparks Lake lies tucked beneath the shadow of the Cascades, a still jewel cradled by ancient pines and volcanic peaks. Its glassy surface reflects the sky and Mount Bachelor's snowy crown with such clarity it feels like a dream captured between water and air. This lake is a refuge, not just for wildlife, but for those who seek quiet beyond the crowds. Early mornings bring mist that drifts low, softening the edges of cattails and floating logs. Loons call out across the water, their mournful songs threading through dawn's hush. Formed thousands of years ago by lava flows that reshaped the land, Sparks Lake invites you to slow down, to watch the dance of light and shadow, and to find stillness in movement. Canoes glide silently, and dragonflies hover like tiny jewels. Long ago, native tribes wandered these lands, living in harmony with the seasons and the cycles of water. Today, the lake is a gentle reminder of that balance, fragile yet enduring. If you visit, come prepared for quiet reverence. Bring a journal or a sketch pad, or simply sit with your thoughts mirrored in the lake's calm face. Sunsets here turn the water to molten gold, a fleeting fire that fades into twilight. Sparks Lake does not rush. It waits, patient, silent, and in its stillness, you may find a moment to remember how to breathe deep, how to be fully present, here, between sky and earth, water and self. The Willamette Valley stretches wide and gentle, a quilt of emerald fields, rolling hills, and orchards heavy with fruit. It is Oregon's heartland, fertile, patient, and rich with the slow rhythms of soil and season. Morning light spills soft over vineyards that spill like green rivers across the land. The scent of blooming cherry trees mingles with fresh earth and the faint hum of bees, busy in their ancient work. Here, farms have thrived for centuries, rooted in traditions both native and settler. The Kalapuya people once called this valley home, living in harmony with the river's pulse and the land's bounty. Their stewardship shaped these fields long before plows and tractors arrived. Today, the valley invites visitors to slow down, to taste its wines, wander farm stands bursting with berries, and watch the horizon fold into soft hills. Autumn is a season of color and harvest, when leaves turn fiery and grapevines glow amber. Spring brings wildflowers and the sweet murmur of life awakening. If you wander these roads, listen to the quiet stories whispered by weathered barns and fence posts. Taste the earth in every bite and sip. Willamette Valley does not hurry. It teaches patience and offers a gentle reminder: growth is never loud. It is slow, steady, and rooted deep beneath the surface. Here, the land holds you and asks only that you stay a while. Smith Rock rises like a jagged crown against the endless blue, a monument carved by fire, wind, and water. Its towering cliffs, burnt orange and gray, stand sharp and proud, drawing climbers and dreamers alike to test their strength and find stillness in the vast high desert. This land holds a story etched in stone. Once a territory of the northern Paiute and Warm Springs tribes, the area around Smith Rock carries echoes of ancient life, of hunters and gatherers who read these rugged cliffs as maps, homes, and spiritual markers. The rock's name comes from Crooked River rancher Clarence Smith, who once owned the land, but its presence feels far older than any man's claim. Geologists say the cliffs were formed by volcanic activity millions of years ago, layers of hardened lava and tuff shaped by the slow grind of the Crooked River below. Today, climbers ascend vertical walls, their fingers tracing cracks and crevices in a silent dialogue with gravity. Trails wind along ridges, offering views that stretch to distant mountains, high desert plains, and skies so vast they seem to swallow sound. Visit in early morning light when shadows carve the cliffs into relief, and the air is cool, sharp with sage and juniper. Wildlife stirs, mule deer, golden eagles soaring high above. If you come, respect the fragile balance between thrill and reverence. The land here is wild, raw, and still fragile beneath human feet. Smith Rock is not just a place to conquer. It is a place to listen, to learn from the stone and sky how to stand steady, how to fall softly, and how to rise again. Here, every step holds meaning. Every breath is a prayer. The painted hills rise like a dreamscape, rolling waves of ochre, rust gold, and ash, layered through millennia like an artist's palette spilled across the earth. Each stripe tells a story. Ancient seas, volcanic ash, winds that shaped this silent gallery. Walking here feels like stepping inside a living painting. The soil crunches beneath your feet, dry and warm, as sunlight shifts, casting shadows that dance among the hill's curves. Sparse grasses lean into the wind, and the sky stretches endlessly above, vast and pale. The hills were sacred to the native peoples who revered the land cycles, its birth, death, and renewal. Fossils embedded in the earth whisper creatures long gone, memories pressed into stone and soil. Visit in spring, when wildflowers sprinkle the valleys with color, or late afternoon, when golden light deepens the hues into fire. The painted hills ask you to slow, to breathe, to listen. This is a place where time folds, where the earth reveals its hidden layers, and where, if you stand still long enough, you might just feel the weight of millions of years settle softly on your shoulders. Here, history is not buried. It is painted in broad, breathtaking strokes. Roseburg sits quietly along the South Umpqua River, a town stitched together by forests, farms, and the soft hum of daily life. Its streets are lined with maples and oaks that blaze with autumn fire, and the scent of pine lingers like a familiar song. Founded during Oregon's timber boom, Roseburg carries the marks of industry and endurance. Sawmills once roared here, shaping the vast Douglas fir forests into homes and stories across the region. Today, the rhythm is gentler, the pace slower, but the roots run deep. Beneath the surface is a history less told. The Umpqua people who lived here long before settlers arrived, whose names and traditions still echo in the land, the river, and the stones. Walk the riverfront parks at dawn and catch the mist curling over water, a quiet breath before the day begins. Local cafes hum with the warmth of community, and farmers' markets burst with the colors of harvest. Roseburg invites you not to rush, but to settle, to find grace in small moments, the glow of late afternoon light, the murmur of flowing water, the simple kindness of a stranger. Here, life unfolds gently, and beneath the surface, something enduring waits, a quiet strength, a soft welcome, a place to call pause. Frenchie Falls is a hidden gem tucked within Oregon's verdant embrace, a place where water dances over mossy stones and the forest breathes deep and green. The trail to the falls is a soft invitation, winding through firs and cedars, their needles carping the ground like whispered memories. The falls themselves spill gently, cascading over basalt ledges in a series of delicate steps, a quiet contrast to the thunderous torrents found elsewhere in the region. The air here is cool and damp, rich with the scent of earth and pine, the occasional sparkle of sunlight filtering through the canopy. Long ago, this land belonged to the Umpqua and other native peoples who treasured these waters as life's pulse, sources of fish, fresh drinking water, and sacred space. Their stories still live in the rustle of leaves and the steady murmur of the creek. Visitors come for peace and presence, often finding themselves seated on smooth stones, watching the play of light on water, listening to the soft cadence of falls. If you wander here, tread lightly. Take a moment to breathe deeply and feel the forest's quiet strength. Let the gentle water remind you that not all power is loud. Sometimes it flows softly, shaping the world in silence. Frenchie Falls offers a lesson in patience, in grace, and in the beauty of the small and steady. Here, nature's heartbeat is subtle, but it is there unwavering. Medford pulses quietly beneath the shadow of the Siskiyou Mountains, a city born of orchards, railroads, and restless dreams. Its streets hum with a blend of old and new, historic brick facades beside vibrant murals, farmers' markets fragrant with ripe berries, and cafes filled with conversations in multiple tongues. The valley's fertile soil has long fed this place, from the native Takelma people who once roamed these lands to settlers who planted pear trees and tended vineyards. Medford grew with grit, surviving fires, floods, and economic tides, always rooting the earth beneath its feet. Downtown offers a slow invitation, art galleries glowing at dusk, theaters echoing with stories, and quiet parks where city noise fades into songbirds' calls. Visit during harvest season, when the air tastes sweet with ripening fruit and the rhythm of picking pulses through the community. In winter, fog softens edges, wrapping streets in silver mystery. If you wander here, listen to the stories beneath the surface, in the laughter, the labor, and the lingering scent of pine and rain. Medford is not loud, but it is alive, a place where roots dig deep and hope rises anew with every season. Haceta Lighthouse perches on a rugged headland, its white tower standing tall against a relentless Pacific wind. Built in 1894, its beam once swept the dark waters, guiding sailors safely past rocky shoals and hidden reefs. The lighthouse is more than stone and light. It is a sentinel of stories. During World War II, it was darkened to avoid enemy detection, a silent guardian shrouded in shadow. Today, it welcomes visitors who come to stand where land meets sea in wild, unyielding beauty. Mist curls and twirls around the tower like restless spirits. Waves crash below, sending spray that tastes like salt and thyme. Nearby, tide pools teem with life. Anemones, crabs, and starfish cling to rocks, holding on to the ever-changing tide. The surrounding forest leans toward the ocean, wind-swept and weathered, offering trails where silence is broken only by seabirds and the whisper of needles underfoot. If you come here, walk slowly. Let the wind carry away your worries. Watch the light pulse through fog and night, a steady heartbeat in a restless world. Haceta reminds us that even in darkness, there is guidance. Even in wildness, there is shelter. And sometimes the most steadfast lights shine not brightest, but longest. As our journey through Oregon's landscapes comes to rest, there is a stillness that lingers, a quiet echo of rivers, forests, and coasts weaving through memory like a gentle song. You have walked with me beneath ancient trees, stood before waterfalls that carry stories older than time, and listened to the ocean's endless conversation with the land. These places, each one a whisper, a pulse, a breath, hold more than their shape and color. They hold lives, dreams, and histories woven together in the silence between footsteps. Oregon is not merely a place to see, but a place to feel, to enter slowly, with open hands and open heart. The mountain's shadow teaches humility. The river's flow, persistence. The forest's hush, patience. And the coast's roar, resilience. As you carry these moments with you, remember, you are now part of this land's ongoing story. A traveler, yes, but also a keeper of its quiet truths. So when you pause, when you listen closely, you will hear the earth's soft voice calling, and you will know you have come home. Thank you for walking these paths with me. Until our next journey, may your travels be truthful, your heart open, and your steps steady.